Extinction Protocol. The Varaxian Empire had conquered 17 star systems before they encountered Earth. Their warships, massive crystalline structures that bent light around their hulls, appeared without warning in Earth's orbit on a mild Tuesday in April. Humanity had only established its first Mars colony 3 decades prior and had barely extended unmanned probes to the outer reaches of the solar system. Earth's unified defense forces detected the alien fleet 12 hours before visual confirmation. By then, it was too late for evacuation protocols. All we could do was wait. Primitive species of Sol 3 came the transmission in perfect English, evidence they had been monitoring our communications for some time. I am Supreme Commander Thax 4 of the Varaxian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration. Resistance is inadvisable. The United Earth Council, formed after the Resource Wars 50 years earlier, convened an emergency session. General Illyra Chen, head of Earth's defense forces, stood before the assembled representatives with a grim expression that had earned her the nickname Steel Face during the African campaign. "We cannot match their technology," she stated flatly. "Our most advanced weaponry would be like throwing stones at a tsunami." The council chamber fell silent until President Okafor spoke. "Then we send them a warning instead." Within the hour, Earth broadcast its response across all frequencies, directed at the Varaxian fleet. The message was simple, delivered by Okafor himself. "Varaxian Empire, we recognize your technological superiority. However, we strongly advise against hostile action. Earth is not what it appears. We are not defenseless. Turn back now." The response came immediately. Laughter. Actual laughter, translated through their communication systems. Supreme Commander Thax 4's voice resonated with cruel amusement. "Your species has barely crawled from its gravity well," he said. "Our scans show your weapons are primitive fusion devices and chemical propellants. Your largest vessel would fit in our waste disposal units. Your warning is noted and dismissed." 6 hours later, the first Varaxian strike hit. They targeted Earth's largest military installation in the North American zone with a precision energy beam. The blast vaporized the Rocky Mountain complex and carved a crater 30 miles wide. 2 million people died instantly. The world watched in horror as footage spread across the global network. The Varaxians had made their point. They expected immediate surrender. They didn't get it. What the Varaxians couldn't know, what no alien species could possibly understand, was that humans had spent their entire evolutionary history preparing for this moment. Not consciously, of course, but every war, every disaster, every near-extinction event had shaped humanity into something uniquely dangerous. When the Varaxians struck, they expected panic. Instead, within 20 minutes of the attack, Earth's defense grid activated, not the conventional weapons the aliens had detected, but something else entirely. General Chen stood in the underground command center beneath Antarctica as she gave the order. "Initiate Prometheus Protocol." Across the planet, hidden silos opened. Not missile silos. Those were decoys. The real weapons had been disguised as ordinary infrastructure. Cell towers, weather stations, offshore drilling platforms. Each contained a device that hadn't appeared on any official document since its development 15 years earlier. The first wave of Earth's counterattack wasn't designed to destroy the Varaxian fleet. It couldn't. Instead, thousands of nanoscale devices, each no larger than a dust particle, were launched into the atmosphere. They rose undetected, propelled by electromagnetic fields rather than conventional propulsion. The Varaxians detected nothing until it was too late. Each nanodevice contained a quantum entanglement core, technology humans had developed not for war, but for communication across vast distances. When the devices reached the Varaxian ships, they adhered to the crystalline hulls and activated. Status report, Chen demanded as the command center screens flickered with data. "Infiltration at 87%, General," replied Dr. Aisha Nakamura, the physicist who had helped design the Prometheus Protocol. "The nanodevices are transmitting." What made humans different from the 17 species the Varaxians had previously conquered wasn't superior technology or physical strength. It was adaptability, the ability to turn disadvantages into weapons. The quantum entanglement cores began transmitting data directly into Earth's quantum computing network, bypassing conventional signals that could be blocked. Within minutes, Earth's AI defense systems had complete schematics of Varaxian technology, ship layouts, and most crucially, their communication protocols. Faxvor's smug confidence faltered when his bridge communications officer reported anomalies in their systems. Impossible, he dismissed. These primitives cannot penetrate our security. But humans had never developed conventional cybersecurity the way the Varaxians had. Earth's digital defenses had evolved from constant internal attacks. Hackers, rogue states, corporate espionage. The result was an approach to information warfare that was chaotic, adaptive, and utterly foreign to the structured Varaxian systems. By the time Faxvor realized what was happening, Earth had control of 30% of his fleet's subsystems. Their systems are infected, Dr. Nakamura reported. We can proceed to Phase 2. General Chen nodded. Execute. The real attack began not with explosions or energy weapons, but with something simpler, gravity manipulation. Humans had discovered the principles of gravitational engineering while researching faster-than-light travel. Though they hadn't succeeded in FTL yet, they had developed gravity weapons, devices that could intensify or nullify gravitational fields in localized areas. Across the Varaxian fleet, artificial gravity systems suddenly reversed. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for millennia found themselves with crews violently thrown against ceilings. Life support systems recalibrated to toxic levels. Navigation systems detected phantom gravitational wells where none existed. 1/3 of the Varaxian fleet began drifting out of position, crews incapacitated or dead. They're deploying countermeasures, warned Colonel Jackson from his monitoring station. Adaptive software is isolating our intrusion. Chen had expected this. Initiate Phase 3. This was the true heart of the Prometheus Protocol, not the technology itself, but the psychology behind it. Humans, with their history of warfare against themselves, understood something fundamental about conflict that the Varaxians did not. The most effective way to defeat an enemy isn't to destroy them, but to make them destroy themselves. The remaining functionality of the nanodevices was used not to attack, but to transmit false communications between Varaxian ships, contradictory orders, distress signals that didn't exist. In the confusion, several Varaxian captains, believing they were under attack from within their own fleet, opened fire on Allied vessels. From his command ship, Faxvor watched in horror as his perfectly coordinated armada descended into chaos. This cannot be happening, he hissed to his second-in-command. These are primitives. But the Varaxians had made a critical error in their assessment. They had evaluated Earth based on its official military capabilities, its openly declared technologies. They failed to account for humanity's greatest strength, its paranoia. Since first contact with the Zeta Reticuli scout ship 60 years earlier, Earth had been preparing in secret. The public knew nothing of the crashed alien vessel or the technologies reverse-engineered from its remains. That first encounter had shown humanity one crucial fact. We were not alone, and we were hopelessly outmatched. Rather than despair, humanity had done what it always did: adapted, prepared, and waited. The unified Earth government wasn't formed because of the resource wars as the history books claimed. It was formed because those who knew the truth understood that only a united planet had any chance of survival. 24 hours after the initial Varaxian attack, nearly half their fleet was disabled or destroyed by their own weapons, turned against them through manipulated targeting systems and falsified commands. Faxvor finally realized his mistake. He ordered a retreat, but it was too late. His command ship's propulsion systems had been compromised. As his remaining vessels attempted to withdraw, Earth launched its final response. Conventional missiles, but not aimed at the Varaxian ships. Instead, they detonated in carefully calculated positions, creating an electromagnetic pulse unlike anything the aliens had encountered before. The pulse was harmless to human technology, which had been hardened against such attacks decades ago. But the Varaxian crystalline technology, dependent on precise energy flows, shattered under the strain. As his ship's systems failed around him, Faxvor received one final transmission from Earth. It was President Okafor again, his expression solemn. "We warned you," he said simply. "Earth is not what it appears." In the aftermath, as the Varaxian survivors were rounded up by Earth vessels, General Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Resilience, watching the crystalline wreckage drift against the backdrop of Earth. They never understood what they were facing, she said quietly to Dr. Nakamura, who stood beside her. "They thought technology alone makes a species dangerous." Nakamura nodded. "They never had to fight themselves the way we have. They never had to become monsters to defeat monsters." Chen's gaze remained fixed on the beautiful blue planet below. "And now they know what we're capable of. This isn't over. It's just beginning." In his cell aboard the Resilience, Supreme Commander Faxvor stared at the wall, his multifaceted eyes dimmed with shock. The humans had captured him alive. A final humiliation. But as he replayed the battle in his mind, analyzing where he had gone wrong, a cold realization settled in his core. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet. They had sent a message to the entire Varaxian Empire and beyond. Earth wasn't a primitive backwater to be conquered. It was something far more dangerous, a planet of survivors who had turned their own violent history into a weapon. And somewhere in the depths of space, the rest of the Varaxian Empire was about to learn just how dangerous humans could be. Echoes of victory. 3 weeks after what was now called the Sol Defensive, the remains of the Varaxian fleet drifted in Earth's orbit, a monument and a warning. Scientists and engineers swarmed over the captured vessels, extracting technologies that would advance human development by centuries. But victory had come at a cost. Major Diana Rodriguez stood in the hospital wing of the lunar base, looking down at the burned body of her brother. Luis had been stationed at the secondary command center in Brazil when the Varaxians targeted it with their second strike. He had survived, barely, unlike the other 8,000 personnel. "The grafts are taking well," said the doctor beside her. "We've incorporated some of the Varaxian regenerative techniques. He'll recover, but it will take time." Diana nodded silently. Like many survivors, she found herself torn between pride in humanity's unexpected victory and a deep, simmering rage at what the aliens had done. This contradiction, this capacity to hold opposing emotions simultaneously, was another uniquely human trait that the Varaxians had failed to account for. In the secure holding facility beneath Geneva, Supreme Commander Faxvor was beginning to understand this complexity. His interrogator, Dr. Ezra Cohen, was neither cruel nor kind, simply methodical. Day after day, the human extracted information about the Varaxian Empire, its extent, hierarchy, technological capabilities, and most importantly, its likely response to the defeat at Earth. "Your homeworld will send another fleet," Faxvor stated during their 7th session. It wasn't a threat, merely a fact. "Our empire does not accept defeat." Dr. Cohen's expression didn't change. "How long would that take, given the distance?" Faxvor hesitated, then answered truthfully. 8 of your months at maximum speed." Cohen made a note on his tablet. "Thank you for your cooperation." The Varaxian commander's head frills flared in confusion. "You are not concerned." "On the contrary," Cohen replied. "We're counting on it." What Faxvor couldn't know was that humanity had already launched its counter-response. The day after the battle, Earth had dispatched 12 stealth vessels, ships that had been hidden in the asteroid belt for decades, waiting for this exact scenario. Each carried a payload of quantum-entangled nanodevices, similar to those used against the Varaxian fleet, but modified based on the newly acquired intelligence. These ships wouldn't engage the Varaxian reinforcements directly. Their mission was infiltration, to reach key Voraxian worlds and seed them with Earth's technology before the next armada could be assembled. Meanwhile, Earth transformed. The secret space-based weapons platforms that had remained dormant were now openly acknowledged and expanded. The shipyards on Mars and in Earth orbit, previously disguised as research stations, worked around the clock to build a proper defense fleet, incorporating Voraxian technology. But the most significant changes occurred in human society itself. The truth about the Zeta Reticuli crash 60 years earlier was finally revealed to the public, along with the decades of secret preparation. Rather than anger at the deception, a wave of grim determination swept through the population. Humanity had faced its first true existential threat and survived. Now they prepared for the next. 5 months after the Sol defensive, the long-range sensors detected what everyone had been expecting: a massive Voraxian fleet, 3 times the size of the first, accelerating toward Earth. In the command center beneath Antarctica, now expanded and reinforced, General Chen reviewed the defensive preparations with her staff. Major Rodriguez had been promoted to colonel and given command of the orbital defense grid. The Prometheus protocol has been upgraded based on captured Voraxian tech, reported Dr. Nakamura. And our stealth ships have successfully deployed nanodevices on 11 Voraxian worlds, including their homeworld. Chen nodded. And the Lazarus contingency. The room fell silent. The Lazarus contingency was the final option, a weapon so devastating that its very existence was known only to 12 people on Earth. Ready but not armed, replied Nakamura quietly. As ordered. The approaching Voraxian armada was commanded by Grand Admiral Zexvor, brother of the captured Supreme Commander. His orders were simple: eradicate all life on Earth as an example to any species that might resist the Empire in the future. He had studied the reports of the first defeat carefully and believed he understood humanity's tricks. His fleet had been hardened against electromagnetic pulses. Their systems were isolated to prevent infiltration. Their weapons were calibrated to target Earth's hidden defense platforms first. They would not underestimate these primitives again. What Zexvor didn't realize was that humans excelled at asymmetric warfare precisely because they never used the same strategy twice. As the Voraxian fleet entered the outer solar system, they encountered no resistance. Earth's defense grid remained powered down. No transmissions were detected. It appeared the humans were either hiding or preparing to surrender. Maintain formation, Zexvor ordered as they approached Mars. They are attempting to lure us into complacency. But when the fleet passed the orbit of Mars, still encountering no resistance, even Zexvor began to wonder if the humans had fled. Perhaps they had abandoned their homeworld, knowing they couldn't withstand a proper Voraxian assault. The truth was far different. Earth hadn't been idle during the months of preparation. Using captured Voraxian technology combined with human ingenuity, they had developed something new. A quantum phase shield that rendered the entire planet and its orbital defenses invisible to Voraxian sensors. To the approaching fleet, Earth appeared normal but undefended. In reality, every square meter of orbital space had been seeded with defensive measures. And deep beneath Antarctica, General Chen gave the order they had been waiting for. Initiate Operation Hydra. The attack began not from Earth but from the Voraxian ships themselves. The nanodevices planted on their homeworld had been carried aboard by unsuspecting crew members, hidden in their very bodies. At Chen's signal, these devices activated simultaneously across the entire fleet. But unlike the first battle, they didn't target ship systems. Instead, they interfaced directly with the Voraxians' neural implants, standard technology that all Voraxian military personnel received to enhance battlefield awareness. Across the fleet, crew members suddenly found themselves experiencing realistic hallucinations. Enemies where none existed, systems failing that were functioning normally, orders that had never been given. Within minutes, confusion reigned as Voraxians found themselves unable to trust their own augmented senses. "They're in our minds," shouted Zexvor's second-in-command before drawing his weapon and firing at shadows on the bridge. Security forces responded, not realizing they too were compromised, and the command ship devolved into chaos. As the Varaxian fleet fragmented from within, Earth finally revealed its defenses. The quantum phase shield dropped, and thousands of small attack craft, hybrids of human design and Varaxian technology, swarmed from hidden lunar bases. Colonel Rodriguez led the first wave, her targeting systems identifying ships where the command structures remained intact. Remember, she transmitted to her pilots, "We want prisoners when possible. This isn't just about winning. It's about sending a message." The battle lasted less than 6 hours. Without coordinated command, the superior Varaxian technology could not compensate for the tactical confusion. One by one, their ships were disabled or destroyed. Some Varaxian captains, realizing the futility of continued resistance, surrendered their vessels intact. Grand Admiral Zexfor was not among them. As his flagship burned around him, he activated the self-destruct sequence rather than face the humiliation his brother had endured. When it was over, humanity had captured nearly 30% of the Varaxian fleet, a technological treasure trove that would accelerate Earth's development by millennia. But the true victory was strategic. In a single decisive engagement, humanity had broken the myth of Varaxian invincibility. 2 weeks later, as Earth began integrating the captured ships into its defense force, the first transmission arrived from the Varaxian homeworld. Their High Council, shaken by 2 unprecedented defeats, proposed a ceasefire and diplomatic relations. President Okafor received the transmission in the same chamber where the first warning had been issued months earlier. The Varaxian representative, a civilian council member named Eliavor, spoke with careful deference. "The Eternal Empire acknowledges the unexpected capabilities of humanity," she said, her translator conveying the reluctance in her tone. "We propose an immediate cessation of hostilities and open diplomatic channels." Okafor glanced at General Chen, who stood expressionless beside him. They both knew what this meant. The nanodevices deployed on Varaxian worlds had done more than just infiltrate their military. They had given Earth unprecedented leverage. The Varaxians knew that at any moment, humanity could trigger the devices embedded throughout their society. "We accept your proposal," Okafor replied, "with conditions." The terms were non-negotiable. Immediate recognition of Earth's sovereignty, reparations for the attacks, technology exchange protocols, and most significantly, Earth's ascension to the Galactic Council, a governing body the Varaxians had previously claimed didn't exist. Eliavor hesitated before responding. "These terms are acceptable." What followed changed the course of human history. Within a year, Earth ships, incorporating Varaxian technology with human innovations, began exploring beyond the solar system. Earth's population, united by the common threat, accelerated scientific development at an unprecedented rate. But not all consequences were positive. The militarization that had saved humanity became embedded in its expanding interstellar society. The paranoia that had prepared Earth for invasion evolved into an aggressive policy of preemptive security. Some began to wonder if humanity, in defending itself against monsters, had begun to become monstrous. 5 years after the Sol defensive, Diana Rodriguez, now Admiral Rodriguez, stood on the observation deck of Earth's first diplomatic vessel, approaching the Galactic Council headquarters. Beside her stood an unlikely companion, Faxvor, the former Supreme Commander, now serving as an advisor to Earth's delegation. "Your species continues to surprise me," he said, watching the massive space station grow larger in the viewscreen. "Most conquered worlds would seek revenge. You offer me a role instead." Rodriguez turned to look at him. "That's because you still don't understand us, Fax. Humans don't think in absolutes. We can hate what your people did while recognizing the value in cooperation. It's not forgiveness, it's pragmatism." Faxvor's head frills rippled. A gesture Rodriguez had learned indicated thoughtful consideration. "The other council species fear you, you know. They call Earth the sleeping predator that the Varaxians awoke." "Good," Rodriguez replied simply. Fear will keep them diplomatic while we establish ourselves. But in time, they'll learn what you're learning. That humanity's greatest strength isn't our capacity for violence. It's our capacity for change. As their ship docked with the station, Rodriguez reflected on humanity's swift transformation from a single-planet species to an emerging interstellar power. The Varaxian attacks, intended to subjugate Earth, had instead catapulted humanity onto the galactic stage centuries ahead of their natural development. In the end, what the Varaxians and other alien species failed to understand was fundamental. Humans had evolved not as conquerors, but as survivors. Each disaster in their history had culled the weak and rewarded adaptation. They had nearly destroyed themselves countless times, and each time emerged stronger, more resilient, and more dangerous to those who threatened them. Earth had warned the Varaxian Empire. They hadn't listened. Now they existed as a cautionary tale, a once mighty empire humbled by a species they had dismissed as primitive, and as humanity stepped onto the galactic stage, that warning extended to all who might make the same mistake. Underestimate Earth at your peril.
The Council's fatal decision, the great dome of Nexus Prime stretched endlessly above the assembled delegates, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. This was the heart of galactic civilization, where representatives from over 900 species gathered to decide the fate of worlds. Today, their attention focused on a single blue dot displayed on the massive holographic projector at the chamber's center. Earth. Senator Krell of the Valkyrie Dominion rose from his scaled platform, his reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his kind. His voice carried the authority of a species that had conquered 47 star systems in the past century. The chamber fell silent as his words echoed through the vast space. Esteemed colleagues, we gather today to discuss a world that has remained stubbornly silent for 200 standard years. Earth, once home to the species known as humans, now sits empty and defenseless. Our long-range scans confirm no active technology, no defensive installations, no signs of civilization. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The crystalline Etherians chimed like wind bells, while the gaseous nebulae shifted their forms in what could only be described as anticipation. Krell continued, his clawed hand gesturing toward the hologram. This world possesses resources beyond measure. Rare metals, pristine water reserves, and most importantly, a strategic position that would grant us control over 3 major hyperspace routes. The humans who once called it home are gone, vanished into history like so many primitive species. Before them, Ambassador Thane of the Etherian Collective stood, her crystalline body refracting the chamber's light into spectacular patterns. Her voice resonated with harmonic overtones that spoke of ancient wisdom and caution. Senator Krell speaks of opportunity, but I sense something deeper in the void around Earth. My people's crystal matrices detect quantum fluctuations that suggest all is not as it appears. A chorus of dismissive sounds filled the chamber. The Kogari laughed with sounds like grinding stone, while the insectoid Chitari clicked their mandibles in what passed for amusement among their kind. High Chancellor Vex, whose species had ruled the galactic core for millennia, raised one of his 4 arms for silence. Ambassador Thane, your people's sensitivity to quantum fields is well known, but 2 centuries of observation have shown nothing but a dead world. Our deep space monitors have detected no communication signals, no energy signatures, no movement beyond natural geological processes. Krell seized the moment, his voice growing more persuasive. The humans were a young species, barely out of their home system when they retreated to Earth during the Great Silence. They lacked the technology for interstellar war, the wisdom for galactic diplomacy, and the strength for survival. We offer them the mercy of swift annexation rather than slow extinction. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome seemed inevitable. Species after species voiced their support for the invasion. The draconic hegemony saw Earth as a stepping stone to expansion. The Trade Federation calculated enormous profits from human resources. Even the typically neutral Voidwalkers agreed that an empty world served no purpose in galactic affairs. When the vote was called, the result was overwhelming. 847 species voted in favor of invasion, with only 23 dissenting voices and 37 abstentions. The die was cast, and Earth's fate was sealed by creatures who had never set foot on its soil. Within days, the first wave of the invasion fleet was assembled. 12,000 ships from 50 different species, representing the largest cooperative military effort in galactic history. At its head flew the Vakari dreadnought, Inevitable Victory, its hull bristling with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Behind it stretched a formation that could glass entire continents in minutes. Admiral Zaxxon of the Hegemony Navy stood on his command bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. The blue and white marble looked exactly as their scans had indicated: peaceful, defenseless, and completely unaware of the force approaching. His reptilian features showed satisfaction as he opened a channel to the fleet. All vessels, maintain formation. Target selection protocols are active. We begin orbital bombardment in 6 hours, followed by ground assault in 12. This will be the shortest campaign in recorded history. But something was wrong. The first sign came from the scout ships pushing ahead of the main fleet. 3 light reconnaissance vessels, each crewed by experienced pilots, simply vanished from sensors as they approached Earth's moon. No distress signals, no weapons fire, no debris. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. Zaxxon frowned, his scaled brow furrowing. Equipment failures were rare, but not impossible. He dispatched 3 more scouts, these equipped with the most advanced sensors in the fleet. They too disappeared without a trace as they crossed some invisible line in space. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving strange quantum echoes from the direction of Earth's moon. The signals don't match any known technology." The Admiral's unease grew as more reports flooded in. Ships at the fleet's edge reported instrument malfunctions. Navigation systems showed impossible readings. Some vessels claimed their quantum cores were resonating with an unknown frequency that seemed to originate from Earth itself. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council received these reports with growing concern. Ambassador Thane stood before the emergency session, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated light patterns. The quantum fluctuations she had sensed were growing stronger, and her people's deep space monitoring stations were detecting energy signatures that defied explanation. "Honorable Chancellor," she said, her voice carrying harmonics of urgency, "my people's quantum resonance chambers are screaming warnings. Whatever is happening near Earth, it involves technology beyond our current understanding. We must recall the fleet immediately." Senator Krell slammed his clawed fist against his platform. "Cowardice. A few equipment failures and mysterious signals do not justify abandoning the greatest conquest in galactic history." The humans had barely achieved faster-than-light travel when they went silent. They could not possibly possess technology that threatens our combined fleets. But even as he spoke, more disturbing news arrived. The invasion fleet had stopped advancing toward Earth, not by choice, but because space itself seemed to be resisting their approach. Ships found their engines, straining against an invisible force that grew stronger the closer they got to the human homeworld captain. Xeris of the scout vessel, Farseeker, was among the last to send a coherent message before the communication blackout began. His voice crackled through the quantum static as he reported from the edge of Earth's gravitational influence. Command, we're detecting massive structures emerging from what we thought was empty space. They're everywhere. Hidden stations, weapon platforms, something that looks like a ring around the entire planet. How did we miss this? How did our scans show nothing? The transmission cut to static, and Farseeker joined the growing list of vanished vessels in the deepest levels of Nexus Prime. High Chancellor Vex convened an emergency meeting with his most trusted advisors. The chamber was small and windowless, lit only by the pale glow of quantum displays showing the tactical situation around Earth. The readings made no sense. Where once their instruments had shown empty space, now they detected energy signatures that registered off every known scale. How is this possible? Vex demanded, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of confusion. 200 years of observation, our most advanced sensors, deep space reconnaissance all of it, showed a dead world. His chief science advisor, a floating sphere of pure energy called a luminar, pulsed with patterns that indicated deep concern. Chancellor, we may have made a fundamental error in our understanding of human technology. If they possessed the ability to mask their entire world from our sensors, to hide defensive installations throughout their star system, then we have severely underestimated their capabilities. The implications hit the Council like a thunderbolt. If humans could hide an entire planetary defense system from the galaxy's most advanced sensors, what else might they be capable of? The species they had dismissed as primitive and extinct might have spent 2 centuries in hiding, preparing for exactly this moment on Earth. In facilities buried deep beneath mountain ranges and ocean floors, ancient machines hummed to life. For the first time in 200 years, the Great Silence had been humanity's greatest deception, a carefully orchestrated withdrawal from galactic affairs that allowed them to prepare for the war they knew would eventually come. The alien fleet hung in space, paralyzed by forces they couldn't understand and facing defenses they couldn't see. Behind Earth's moon, structures larger than cities began to move, their surfaces reflecting starlight as they turned toward the Torn's invaders. And in the command centers hidden beneath Earth's surface, human voices spoke with calm determination as they prepared to show the galaxy exactly what 2 centuries of angry, focused preparation could accomplish. The invasion had begun, but not as anyone expected. Humanity's awakening fury deep beneath the Himalayas, in a facility that had been carved from living rock over 2 centuries ago. Director Sarah Chen stood before a wall of displays that showed every ship in the alien fleet. Her fingers moved across holographic controls with practiced precision, and her voice carried the weight of humanity's long-awaited response. Initiate Phase 1 of the Revelation Protocol. Let them see what they're really dealing with. The first sign that Earth was not the defenseless world the aliens expected came as a shimmer in space around the planet. Like a veil being lifted, massive defensive installations materialized from apparent nothingness. Orbital platforms the size of cities, weapon arrays that stretched for hundreds of kilometers, and ring structures that encompassed the entire world became visible to alien sensors for the first time. Admiral Zaxxon stared at his viewscreen in disbelief as his instruments registered energy readings that shouldn't have been possible. The dead world he had come to conquer was surrounded by defensive installations that dwarfed anything in the galactic archives. His voice cracked as he tried to maintain command authority. How How is this possible? Our sensors showed nothing. 200 years of observation showed nothing. His science officer, a Chitauri, whose compound eyes could process multiple light spectrums simultaneously, chattered in distress. Admiral, these installations are using quantum phase shifting technology. They exist in normal space but can shift partially into quantum dimensions to avoid detection. This technology, ... It's beyond anything we've encountered. On the far side of Earth's moon, something even more impressive was revealing itself. Captain Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought Unbroken Will, watching as his ship's stealth systems disengaged for the first time in 2 centuries. Around him, the Sentinel fleet emerged from quantum concealment. Over 3,000 vessels of human design. These were not the crude chemical rockets and primitive fusion drives the galaxy remembered from humanity's brief appearance on the galactic stage. These ships moved through space like living creatures, their hulls flowing and adapting, their weapon systems incorporating technologies that the aliens had only theorized about in their most advanced research facilities. All ships. This is Captain Rivera. He broadcast to the Sentinel fleet. For 200 years, we've waited in silence while they forgot about us. They thought we were weak, primitive, gone. Today, we remind the galaxy what human determination looks like when it has time to mature. The alien fleet tried to retreat, but space itself seemed to have turned against them. Human gravity manipulators created pockets of twisted space-time that trapped entire formations of ships. Vessels that had traveled between stars found themselves unable to move more than a few kilometers in any direction. In the council chambers of Nexus Prime, panic was spreading like wildfire. Senator Krell, who had been so confident in his species' military superiority, now watched in horror as reports flooded in from the invasion fleet. Ambassador Thane's warnings, which had seemed so paranoid just days before, now appeared prophetic. Esteemed delegates, High Chancellor Vex announced, his voice barely maintaining its usual authority. We have received a transmission from Earth. It is being broadcast on all frequencies, in every known galactic language. The chamber fell silent as the message played. A human woman appeared on the central display, her appearance unremarkable except for her eyes, which held the weight of centuries of preparation and the fire of species-wide determination. When she spoke, her words carried across the galaxy, with perfect clarity. I am Director Sarah Chen, speaking for the United Earth Defense Command. For 200 years, you have believed humanity was extinct, defeated, or hiding in shame. You were wrong on all counts. We withdrew from galactic affairs to prepare for this moment, the moment when your greed and arrogance would inevitably lead you to our doorstep. The hologram paused, and in that silence, alien worlds held their breath. You see our world as a prize to be taken, our resources as wealth to be harvested, our home as empty territory to be divided among your empires. You have made a fundamental error. You have forgotten that humanity's greatest strength was never our technology, our military might, or our diplomatic skill. Our greatest strength is our refusal to give up. Admiral Zara Okafor, commanding the defense operations from her position aboard the orbital fortress Defiant Dawn, watched as the first demonstration of human military technology began. The quantum phase cannons, developed in secret laboratories, hidden across Earth's solar system, fired not energy beams but directed distortions in reality itself. The alien dreadnought Inevitable Victory, pride of the Valkyrie fleet, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased from space as if it had never been built. The quantum distortion rewrote the local laws of physics, and the massive vessel found itself scattered across 17 different dimensions. The message from Earth continued, and Director Chen's voice grew harder with each word. For 2 centuries, we have studied your species, your technologies, your weaknesses. We know every ship design in your fleets, every tactic in your military doctrines, every political alliance that holds your governments together. We have prepared countermeasures for weapons you have not yet invented, and defenses against attacks you have not yet imagined. Captain Rivera's voice crackled across the human fleet channels as the Sentinel ships moved into attack formation. These vessels bore names that spoke to humanity's long memory and longer grudges. Never forgotten, Price of Arrogance, Silent Preparation, and Sleeping Dragon. Each ship was a masterpiece of technology developed in the darkness between stars, incorporating scientific principles that the galaxy's greatest minds had barely theorized. The human ships moved like a school of fish, their movements coordinated by quantum entanglement communication systems that operated faster than light itself. Where the alien fleet tried to form defensive formations, the humans struck with precision that seemed almost supernatural. Plasma barriers that could withstand stellar radiation were sliced through by quantum swords that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Shield generators that had never failed against conventional weapons overloaded and exploded when hit by matantamata, conversion beams that turned their own energy against them. But the most devastating weapon in humanity's arsenal was not technological. It was psychological, as alien ships were systematically disabled rather than destroyed. Their crews found themselves receiving personal messages from Earth. Each message was addressed to specific individuals by name, containing detailed information about their families, their homeworlds, their personal histories. The humans had been watching, learning, preparing files on every being that might one day threaten their world. Captain Xerxes of the 3rd Hegemony Fleet, one message began. We know about your mate Syraxia and your 3 offspring on Drake Prime. We know about your brother's gambling debts and your mother's medical condition. We know that you joined this invasion to earn the credits needed for her treatment. Surrender your vessel, and we will ensure she receives the care she needs. Continue fighting, and you will die far from home for leaders who consider you expendable. The psychological warfare was brutally effective. Ship after ship powered down their weapons and transmitted surrender codes as their crews realized that humanity had spent 2 centuries learning everything about them while remaining completely hidden themselves. On Nexus Prime, the emergency session had devolved into chaos. Representatives who had voted so confidently for Earth's invasion now screamed accusations at each other. The draconic hegemony blamed the Varkari Dominion for faulty intelligence. The Trade Federation accused the military coalitions of overconfidence. The Etherian collective simply stood in silence, their crystalline forms pulsing with patterns that spoke of ancient sorrow and hard learned. Wisdom. Director Chen's message reached its conclusion as human forces completed their demonstration of technological superiority. We offer the galaxy a choice. Recognize Earth's sovereignty and humanity's right to exist in peace. Or learn why 2 centuries of focused preparation by an angry species is something to be feared. We have no desire for conquest, no need for your resources, no interest in ruling over other worlds, but we will never again allow anyone to threaten our home. The final demonstration came as human engineering ships emerged from quantum concealment throughout the alien fleet. These vessels, equipped with matter manipulation technology, began the systematic disassembly of the largest alien vessels. The process was precise, almost surgical, as the human ships took apart dreadnoughts bolt by bolt, showing that they could neutralize any threat without even resorting to weapons. Admiral Zara Okafor opened a channel to the remaining functional alien ships, her voice carrying the authority of a species that had just rewritten the balance of galactic power. "This is Admiral Okafor of the United Earth Defense Command. Your invasion fleet is now under human control. Your weapons are disabled, your shields are down, and your engines are offline. You will be escorted to designated holding areas where you will remain until your governments agree to new diplomatic protocols." The response from the galaxy was swift and desperate. Within hours, every major government was broadcasting surrender messages toward Earth. The Vakari Dominion, which had been so eager for conquest, now begged for mercy. The draconic hegemony offered tribute and alliance. Even the ancient Kogari, who had ruled the galactic core for millennia, sent messages acknowledging humanity's right to self-determination. But the most significant change came from the Galactic Council itself. High Chancellor Vex, his forearms trembling with the weight of his species' folly, broadcast a formal apology to Earth and an invitation for humanity to join the Council as a founding member of a new galactic order. Director Chen received these messages in her command center deep beneath the Earth, surrounded by the technology that had made humanity's impossible defense possible. She looked at the wall of displays showing alien fleets surrendering across human space, then turned to her communication officer. "Send a reply to the Galactic Council. Humanity accepts their apology and their invitation, but let them know that the terms of galactic membership have changed. We will not be junior partners in someone else's empire. We are Earth, we are human, and we have spent 2 centuries learning that the only beings we can truly trust to protect humanity are humans themselves." The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating species based on appearance, about assuming silence meant weakness, and about the danger of threatening a world where beings lived who simply refused to give up. Humanity had emerged from its great silence, not as conquerors, but as guardians, not as destroyers, but as the beings who would ensure that no species ever again faced extinction because others saw them as weak. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter as Earth took its place among the galactic powers, not as a member, but as an equal, protected by technology born from human ingenuity and defended by beings who had turned to centuries of anger into the foundation of a new age. In the end, the aliens had gotten what they asked for. They had found Earth, they had encountered humanity, and they had learned exactly what the human species was capable of when pushed to the edge of extinction. They would never make that mistake again.